What's good, y'all, man? And today, video is gonna be talking about Zoro and Sanji. All right, so I'm not a big advocate of the Zoro versus Sanji thing. Mainly, what I want to relay in this video and what I think my opinion of this whole thing is first, just lay the ground rules. Zoro is definitely the right hand of Luffy. He's the second in command. He is Luffy's first mate, however you want to put it. And I don't know if too many people really debate that per se, because I mean it's just so many things that are shown to us as to why Zoro is the first mate. You know, we have like in game, like not in game, but in story actions. Like obviously Zoro standing up to Luffy after the whole Usopp thing, saying, "Hey, if you make the decision, you need to go on it." Blah blah blah. And then we had the back at Punk Hazard, how Zoro was the one to give Luffy a skull talking to, like, "Hey, you need to tighten up," type shit, you know. But also like in anime, whenever you look at like the openings, how does it always go? It always goes Luffy then Zoro, or if they're doing like an opening 14, I want to say, yeah, I think it's 14. It goes like in reverse, and then it goes Zoro Luffy. So, and then even like other, like where they show silhouettes, like in the start during an opening, like they show how the crew forms. It's always Luffy, Zoro, stuff like that. So I don't think that's really heavily debated. So what I do see debated all the time is obviously their strength. So the thing about it is it's kind of been this way from the get go, and it's kind of funny because I recently just reread Little Garden, and that's kind of where the whole Zoro and Sanji's like rivalry started. It all started between who would bring back the biggest prey, the biggest catch. So it's kind of been like growing ever since that. But in my opinion, I would have to say if I had to say, Zoro is stronger than Sanji, but I don't think it's by any like substantial gap. You know, I don't think Zoro is just fucking one-shotting Sanji. I don't think he's low-diffing Sanji. I don't think he's even mid-diffing. I think it would be an extreme diff fight for both of them to, and I do believe Zoro would just barely win out. Now, when I say that, that's just speaking, of course, just in terms of power, obviously, and we are in a battle showing so power does mean a lot. However, Sanji has been the better character by far. You know, obviously we had the whole Cake Island, and we got to see Sanji's roots, and that was like major first character, right? But another thing that's like super missed, but I feel like the anime helped it hammer it home, and we're still like I think it's this week we see the finale between Sanji versus Queen, but we got to see that humanity side, and then we got to see the I'm gonna become a monster side, and hey Zoro, kill me if I start to act different. So we got to see like all these emotions from Sanji, and of course we've seen epic character moments from Zoro, but it just doesn't. The array of emotions and the array of character development you see from Sanji. The only glaring flaw Sanji has that he hasn't really improved upon is obviously the women thing, which that'll never change, and I don't think people should consider that a negative because that's just his character trope. I feel like that's just that's like his morals. Like that's obviously like, I'm trying to think if Zoro really has a moral. Zoro doesn't really have a moral that he stands upon, but that's just the way Sanji operates, and I don't really think that's a negative for his character, like a lot of people might say, because a lot of people complain, especially with the Black Moria stuff or Maria stuff. They're like, "Oh, he still is worrying about this damn woman thing." That's his character, and and we see why that's his character. He went through what he went through as a kid, and his mother was there and was the one that took care of him, and then Reiju took care of him as well. And he just always had an affection for women and whatnot. So it makes sense, right? He values women very strongly, and he realizes that women are usually treated poorly because they are weak in most of the cases, and they're just like easily taken advantage of and whatnot. So, and then obviously he's horny, but I do feel like Sanji's character is definitely better. But I do feel like in terms of for the crew, obviously Zoro is just better for the crew because obviously Luffy's not the serious type. So somebody has to be like a serious leader on there. And when shit hits the fan, Zoro is going to be the most serious. Obviously, you'll have Nami that's going to speak. Nami, like, it's the crew dynamic. It's like just a comedy centric, dynamic of the crew. That obviously Nami is really the captain when shit hits the fan, like on the ship, because she's the one that's like she's the navigator and she's the young one that really knows what the fuck they're doing sometimes. And obviously Luffy's just fucking having fun. Zoro's sleep and Sanji's fucking fanboying over whatever Robin or Nami. So it does but when like everybody's attentive, Zoro is like the more serious one, whereas like Luffy's still in adventure mode. He's carefree, and unless something like seriously like happens, like a main plot thing happens. But Zoro overall is definitely a lot better for the crew as far as his character goes. But I get the divide though. I get the divide as to why people care so much about debating Zoro versus Sanji, because a lot of the times the opponents that Sanji beats, they question about maybe Sanji could have or Zoro could have beat the people that Sanji did easily, or Sanji could have beat the people that Zoro beat easily. But when I seriously sit here and look at it, I don't really want to judge anything pre-time skip, because it's kind of like Baroque works, Mr. 2 and Mr. 1. I feel like Mr. 1 was just like a harder matchup. It would be a lot harder matchup for Sanji. Whereas, Zoro, I don't think Mr. 2 would have been that hard of a matchup. And then I'm not really going to worry about Skypiea and Water 7, Annie's Lobby. Kaku and Jabra. I just feel like Kaku, even now, we can see that Jabra isn't a part of CP0, but Kaku is. So it kind of hammers home the fact that Kaku is like the more skilled and the better opponent and whatnot. And then, so when we get to post-time skip, you have Pika, which Sanji wasn't there, so obviously, but Pika was supposedly Doflamingo's second in command, or right-hand man, however you want to put it. And then you had, it's actually kind of funny. You don't really have Zoro and Sanji in the same arc really until Wano, unless I'm mistaking one. And then we didn't get a good showing for him. Obviously, he had his encounter with Sanji had his encounter with Virgo and almost broke his leg and whatnot. And that he's been basically memed upon. And in the whole cake, he didn't really have like a dub like fighting wise. He beat up on a fucking Luffy that was just sitting there just taking it. So I can understand why people value Zoro a little bit more, and it does make sense for him to be stronger just by a tiny bit. But like I said, this is just my opinion on Zoro and Sanji, and saying basically why I think that Zoro is stronger than Sanji, but it would by no means be an easy fight. And I do feel like if when you see top 10, top 20, top 30s, if it's going to be Zoro, if say Zoro is at like a fucking 10, Sanji would be at like an 11 or a 12. I'm not saying that they would be my official like ranking, but I'm just saying they would be right there and they'd be that close. So, like always, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, tell me what you think about it. If you're a Zoro person, you're a Sanji person, you kind of like me and you don't really care, but you have your input as to who you think might be it, but you're not going to die on the hill. Because I'm not going to die on the hill that Zoro is the stronger of the two, or Sanji's the stronger of the two. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm just going to tell you what I think. And yeah, that's just what it's going to be. All right, y'all. Peace.